But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
No.
That's right, Brett Walsh. Welcome back, boys and girls, to the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. This is the 9x9, episode 149. It's Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Minneapolis-ish.
Gross.
That's where I am this week. Yeah, South Canada. Don't love it. And that's Everett Delorme, live from Toronto in actual Canada. Welcome. We're happy to have you all here. It's another week of volleyball. It's not quite as enormously massive as last week. But there's still volleyball played. There's actually volleyball today, a little bit of it, and we're going to talk about some playoffs because it's playoff season. The regular seasons are
playoffs
pretty much over across the board. Other than like the two North American leagues,
talking about playoffs,
and maybe Japan. I think the leagues everywhere else are done as of this weekend. So we're going to set the stage for some playoffs and in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I think that's more or less accurate. I don't know about like France or anything like that.
France, we've got France and Germany on the list with just at least the playoff brackets are set. The German playoffs are underway. But Everett, if it's okay with you, I would like to start in Polska. How do you feel about that?
Poland. Yeah, let's start in Poland, where the regular season just ended. And we knew the 8 playoff teams last week, 2 weeks ago. But now we know what we are getting. And honestly, Rob, like I think this first round is going to be really, really, really good.
I love it.
I love the fact, is it best of 5 or are we best of 3?
So it's a good question. The playoff format in Poland this year, quarterfinals are best of 3 match series. Semifinals are best of 3 match series, and then the final and the third place series are best of 5 match series. So it's a hell of a lot better than last year where they did the Champions League thing throughout. So that's good news. We get bare minimum 2 matches in all these series. We got number 1 JSW against number 8 Norvid, number 2 Warszawa versus number 7 Skra, number 3 Zawiercie versus number 6 Resovia, and number 4 Lublin versus number 5 Zaksa. The higher seeded team will host matches 1 and 3 in all these series. That's how it works.
Honestly, like I think we're in, especially in those bottom 2 brackets, I think we're in for some absolute bangers. I mean, even Skra has recently beat Warszawa. Norvid is a team that can kind of pop off at any moment, and we know that JW isn't immune to capitulating either. Like they've lost some games to some bad teams this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was no sweeps in the first round. Like I wouldn't be surprised if none of these teams were able to get out cleanly. Because I think the only possibility I think maybe is, or not the only possibility, but if I was to bet one team going 3-0, I think it would be Warszawa over Skra.
It would be 2-0 in these series only.
Yeah,
which makes it interesting because if you steal one game, like if you're the lower seeded team and you win your home game, then in that last game anything is possible. Like the margins are pretty thin here. Yeah,
I actually don't mind that though.
I like it too. Yeah, I think it's good.
I actually don't mind that. You can make arguments for both. It's crazy how a 3-game series seems appropriate when in North America we're used to game like best of 7 series. But I guess it's also to the fact that in North America you're potentially playing games every other day, right? In the NHL you're going to be playing at least 2 to 3 playoff games a week. Probably same thing with the NBA, whereas in volleyball we're only going to be playing 1 max 2 a week. So it's
I think they're doing they're taking at least 2, maybe 3 days off in between games. I think they're playing 2 a week for the playoffs, which even Italy this week is playing in the middle of the week to end out the quarterfinals. So that's good. I think that's now that CEV is mostly done with up until the Champions League finals. well, I guess CV Cup, whatever. But
No, we
the
don't even count that shit. Come
no,
on.
we don't. The midweek games are mostly done at this point. So some of these playoff series are going to be happening midweek in addition to the weekends, which I think is great. Obviously, the PlusLiga, with having so many teams, they've got calendar constraints and having to make their series a little bit shorter. But I think best of 3 for all these quarterfinals is going to be pretty electric. I think it's like the perfect sample size for the better team to win, but also really anything is possible. Warszawa played Skra 2 match days ago in the second to last game of the regular season, and Warszawa beat Skra 3-1.
Okay,
I kind of agree with you that I think Warszawa, I expect them to show a decent amount of control in that series because I see Skra as being kind of one-dimensional with Amin, and I think that Warszawa is slightly better at every other position. Except for the opposites, where I think they're pretty similar, but Skra is volatile from the baseline, and you never know.
I wouldn't necessarily say. I think they are pretty similar, but also the Warszawa has the fact that you have that depth. Like you have Bolange and you have Weber, and both of those guys are going to give you different looks. They're going to give you different options, and that to me, I think to me that Warszawa is just going to be much more even keeled, right? They're going to be they're a much calmer team, whereas Skra really, I mean, they're an emotional team. Right, when you look at that starting lineup with you've got an Iranian and 2 Serbians out there holding down your wings, like the boys are going to get fired up sometimes, which can go either way, right? With Peric and Kuyunzic, and then of course Amin on the right. I'm never going to say Amin's last name. Like he's always
Esmail
Najad.
Yeah, he's Amin. That's fine.
But that's the thing. So I just think that Warszawa has that ability to just stay put and to stay even keel. And that's why I think they're going to be able to take care of business against Skra. But
I agree. However, Warszawa did just lose to a similarly fiery and volatile team in Halkbank in the Champions League. And I'm not saying that Skra is as good as
yeah, come on. I don't think that we can make that comparison.
I'm not saying that, but the styles are similar. So we'll see. I also I agree with you that JSW has lost some weird games this year, but I think that Norvid magic that we saw the first 3 or 4 months of the year that then very much went away once Quinn Isaacson got hurt. They have recaptured that enough to make the playoffs, but
they did it. Yeah, they did it in 1 game basically.
Right. I just don't. Yeah, I don't feel that same Norvid magic that I felt a few months ago. And while JSW doesn't always like. Yeah, fair enough.
That's all I'm thinking of. Like I don't necessarily see Norvid as a potential winner of this series, but I could see it for 1 game. I could see their game at home being a gangbuster because once again, like you've got a lot of dudes on that Norvid team, right? Because we always forget about Abadapur, and I think Abadapur has been secretly been having, and not secretly, quietly been having an outstanding season, especially compared to last year at Milano, where he was moved to the bench, and we saw him playing middle at some point. So was that last year, the year before? I honestly can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Right, but it just seemed like his trajectory was going downwards, and that's why, like, let's be honest, Abadapur shouldn't be on a roster like Norvid. Right, like a roster of a team that should potentially be relegated, and he's had a fantastic year for them. So I think that if they can get it going, and I think that sometimes JW, when you look at that, they just miss that fire. Sometimes, like you've got a lot of guys who are really confident but pretty laid back. Like if you look at Fornal, he's pretty laid back. Kaczmarek, he's pretty laid back. Boyer can get fiery, but he's not a rah like get the boys kind of going type of guy. So I think that if Norvid can get their own home crowd against them, if Indra's firing, Abadapur's on his game, and Quinn Isaacson's just giving the got the boys on some skates out there, I think they could take, I think they could take one at home and make it an interesting series.
I'm curious to hear how our audio listeners react to whatever the hell it is that you just did.
I mean, I think that was very self-explanatory, to be perfectly honest. I mean, what do you guys think in the chat?
So my personal favorite series here is the 3-6 Zavierce versus Resovia. Resovia is the hottest team on the planet. 16, what have they won? 17 or something games in a row, like a completely ridiculous winning streak that they're on right now. Somebody, if you are Polish in the chat and you know this, please tell us about Bartosz Bednorz's health or availability. because I remember he tweaked his ankle in the CV Cup series last week. But Zavierce was my preseason pick to win the PlusLiga, and I do still stand by that. I think that team's really good. They're really scary from the baseline. I think that this is going to be an explosive matchup. A lot of big swings, big dudes hitting the ball as hard as they can. I am curious about it. Does either team have that sort of lockdown, control the game, keep their teammates chill sort of player? Because I think that Zavierce does with Bartosz Folek. I think he's going to be a huge player in this series. Does Resovia have a similar type of guy?
I don't know. But I think the part of it too is that Resovia is just in this state right now, and they're firing all cylinders off of that Semo Vuo magic. And he's been able to kind of figure out what to do with that roster and kind of how to go about things. I mean, let's remember, Rob, there was a time when this Resovia team was ranked like 11th.
Yep.
Right. There was a time in this Resovia team, like we were wondering if they were going to be able to make the playoffs. And now in the second half of the season, they're on arguably one of the best runs we've seen in men's volleyball of late, and in the PlusLiga, where so many things can happen. So
right.
I think that this one is so interesting. I think game one is going to dictate so much for me.
Agreed.
I think it really is, and it's almost really hard to make a pick between these two teams right now, just because I think game one is going to be really, really indicative of whatever comes out of it. But this is going to be very interesting in terms of like, hey, we've talked about it. We're big fans of the Resovia curse here. Like we love.
I was just about to bring it up.
We love kind of harping on that. And this is going to be an interesting year because Resovia, I mean, in my like ardent fans of the PlusLiga, in my 2, maybe 3 years of following it, they've always seemed to be really good coming into the playoffs, really good throughout the season, and then everything will kind of fall off. But a lot of changes over there this year. So I think obviously there's no doubt about it that this series is definitely the most interesting. I think the 4-5 is going to be really entertaining, but I don't know if either of those teams in the 4-5 have a legitimate shot of winning the PlusLiga. Whereas I think that whoever wins the series of the 3-6 has a legitimate shot of potentially winning the PlusLiga.
I think that's a pretty good take and a good assessment. I mean, Lublin, the 4 seed, has been very good this year, but they can't beat anybody ranked above them ever since like their hot start to the very beginning of the season.
Even in that last match in the second last round of the league against JW, all JW needed was 1 point to clinch first. Right. So after they won that second set, they brought the bench out. Right. They brought Vincentine out. They brought a bunch of Polish dudes that I've never seen before. Some of them looked like they were children.
Still beat them 3-1.
Yeah, still beat them 3-1. And that's the thing, is that Lublin does really, really good at playing all the way top to the level, and I think that's mostly due to Wilfredo Leon. Like I think when you look at like Lublin and Zaxa, it's very interesting because you have two teams who maybe don't have the rosters and the on paper that the other 4 teams, adding Resovia into the top ones, have, but they've maximized everything that they can within how they play.
Completely agree.
Right, they maximize how they play their game, and they really lean into it. And I'm not saying those other teams don't, but those other teams have that extra added ability of that, like they have superstar players almost everywhere. Whereas, if Lublin, like especially that P2 position, that opposite position, there's a lot of question marks there. Maybe also in the center position for Zaxa, a lot of question marks down the middle, also on the left side too. Like love Shimura and Grabelny. But when you look at the other left side, some of the other teams are bringing to the case out here. But in also, I think that one guy that we haven't talked about enough this year is Janusz. When you look at the efficiency of a guy like Bartosz Kurek, you look at who the left sides are in terms of Grobelny and Shimura and what they've been able to do this year. And
the
Grobelny,
injury issues for everybody on that team. Like
absolutely,
Kirk was out for so long. Like for a while,
they was out for like 11 weeks.
They didn't even have two healthy middles on the roster for a while there. They had a left side playing in the middle for a while. Like the fact that Zaksa got the 5th seed, I think it lends a little bit of substance to Marcin Janusz's MVP case for the league this year.
I really think so too. You know, there was a post from Volleyball World about who we thought was the MVP, and eventually, like we said, there could only be one player per team. So eventually, we just picked Kurek because he's the big name.
Correct.
But when you look at how Janusz has led that team, when you look at the numbers of guys like Urbanovic and Poreba, Grobelny's efficiency is like a 3.9 or a 3.8. Like I think it's a 3.9. Like it's up there.
He's had an awesome year.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. So I think Janusz is incredible. But this one is going to be. I think there's so much hype on this because you've got two of the best attackers of the 2010s of their generations in Kurek and Leon going head to head,
completely head to head, like hitting and blocking against one another on the same side.
Exactly. So
I love it.
So that's going to be fire. And you know what? It'll be interesting to see whoever moves on, but I'm not entirely sure. Like both of these teams have had a big time, a big struggle at beating the 3 teams ahead of them in the standings. So I don't know if either of them. It would be a stretch to see either of these teams, I think, in a Champions League spot next year.
I think the ceiling for both of those two teams is 3rd. I think that either of them could win a 3rd place series, which would get them a Champions League spot. But I agree with you. I don't see either of them necessarily reaching the finals. I think we got to make some picks here, Everett. Let's go down the series and put on the record what we think is going to happen here. I've actually got Zaksa. I've got Zaksa in 3. In the 4-5 series. I think that they have the better setter, the better libero, and an attacker that's almost as good as Leon. They're both playing awesome right now, but I've got Zaksa.
They also just have the institutional knowledge of how to play the PlusLiga playoffs.
Excellent point.
Right? And you've got a coach who has been fantastic, right?
Gianni, he won.
Gianni has been right. Like, so you have a team that just knows how to get it done at this level. And knows how
to just win a Challenge Cup against a good opponent. So like
he did, but I do think that winning European is a little bit more raw than winning in the playoffs at home, right? Because there's less scouting, right? There's less preparations. You're playing against a completely different style and a completely different venue, whereas there's so much familiarity within the PlusLiga. So I think it's going to be a big match. I also agree, Rob. I think I'm going to go for Zaksa. I'm going to go with JW. I'm going to go with Warszawa.
Pick the 6.
Fuck. I mean, like, like my head tells me to go with Zawiercie, but I kind of want to go. Like, it's really hard to bet against a team that hasn't lost since early January. Right, this is a team that is rolling and knows how to win. So I think I'm actually going to go with Resovia on this one. I don't know if that's a good choice. It's probably not, but I'm going to go with Resovia on this one.
I'm glad one of us picked Resovia. I certainly wasn't going to because I've been a Zawiercie stan from the beginning of this season.
I'm also just picking Resovia so that if they win, I can rub it in your face. 100%.
Fair enough. In addition to being a Zawiercie fan this year, I am also a believer in the Resovia curse.
That's fair. But the Resovia curse to me is a semifinal curse.
Maybe. I think it is when you get into the playoffs against a good team and they underperform massively after coming in with high expectations. I feel like I've seen this movie before. So
that's fair. That's fair.
I'm going with Zawiercie and then, like you said, JSW and Warszawa.
Interesting. Is that it for Poland?
No, last but not least, the relegation game.
Oh.
We had a head-to-head relegation game. It was awesome. Congratulations to Barkom Lviv. Barkom Lviv beat Stal Nysa 3-1. And for the first time, literally all season, Barkom Lviv is not sitting in a relegation position. They were in the bottom 3 of the league for 29 weeks out of the year. And in week 30, they get 3 points. They overtake Nysa by 1 point, and Barkom Lviv from Ukraine is staying in the PlusLiga, which is unbelievable. And So they won the match 3-1. I watched the whole thing. Nysa looked like they did not want to be there, like they had nothing to play for, like they completely didn't care what was on the line. And Barkom Lviv was completely the opposite. I thought they played awesome. And other than Michal Gierjot, who has had a really good year for Nysa, that team has been disappointing and difficult to watch. And for the first time all year, also Nysa is now in relegation position after being outside of it literally the entire year. Week 30, man.
Crazy. That blows. I mean, they're done, right? So
they're done.
Thank you very much, Nysa. I mean, I honestly can't say that I've ever fully watched a Nysa game. I used to watch a few, like tune in once in a while when Bentara was over there, but I mean that was a while ago now. So
they almost got relegated one of those years.
They did almost get relegated. You're right. So also, I've seen the Poland long list for VNL.
You mean this?
Oh shit! It's out. It's out.
Somebody did not read our show notes before this show. Yeah. So while we're talking about Poland, I figured we might as well at least like acknowledge the first federation to put out their 30-player preliminary roster for VNL this summer. The Polish men did it, and we don't need to go that much into this. I just think it's good to set people's expectations that this is going to be part of a much greater pattern. No Mateusz Bieniek, no Łukasz Kaczmarek, no Marcin Janusz, no Bartosz Kwolek, no Paweł Zatorski, no Grzegorz Łomacz, and no Karol Butrin. All of those either Olympians or top-level players are not playing VNL. Get used to it. This is going to happen a lot.
I'm honestly surprised at how many there are on this list.
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm looking at this. Kurek. Yeah, I'm looking at Leon, Fornal, Kurek, and I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Huber, what are you guys doing?
Why? Like,
chill.
Chill out. Hang out.
Śliwka, chill, dude.
Yeah. I mean, Śliwka is maybe a guy because he's actually
he's been in Japan. He's been doing rehab stuff.
But yeah, like even it's just an interesting an interesting thing. Also, people in the chat, guys, I'm using a 4K camera. The fact that you're saying it looks like
y'all. All right, figure it out. I produce the show on an iPad. I am in a hotel room with questionable Wi-Fi. Anything that doesn't look perfect is due to my hotel's Wi-Fi, not any of our equipment. All right, figure it out. Stop complaining.
Yeah. I'm just surprised, to be honest, that like Grbić didn't give more people off, or more of those players didn't ask for it off. So as these start to trickle out, I'm going to be very, very, very interested to see who is going to be playing where and such.
Yeah, and I mean, just because they're included in the 30-player preliminary roster doesn't necessarily mean they're going to play. It just means that they can. So all that we know from this is that the guys that are not on this roster will not play VNL in any way. So maybe Grbić is just sitting on a couple of these guys in case he decides he wants to actually win the VNL finals, and when they get there, he can bring out the big guns. But I mean, even last year he chose not to do that. So I don't know, but just get used to it. This will be a pattern when federations start to put out their lists of bodies for VNL. We're going to be missing a lot of big names. Don't freak out. Don't complain about it. It's the first VNL of a quad. This is going to happen. I was reading through the Polish Federation's Instagram comments when they posted this list, and I was surprised at how uneducated their fan base was. Like, where are all these guys? Where's Janusz? Where's Bieniek? Where's Kaczmarek? Like, y'all don't know what's going on here, what tournament this is and when it is? Like, figure it out.
I don't, but I think that's just the average fan has a different, I can liken it to soccer, where we beat your sorry asses again this past weekend.
Who cares?
Nations Leagues. I mean, literally the entire world. You can sit over there and think the Super Bowl matters, but it really doesn't. Now,
yeah, CONCACAF Nations League matters. Get the hell out of here. What are we doing?
I mean, hey, we beat you again, so
I do not care.
That's fun. But even like when those rosters come out for soccer, it's the same thing. Like everyone, like if the big names are not, everyone's like, what the hell? Why aren't these guys playing? Let's. I think we need to like call it as it is that the average sports fan is a stooge.
Of course they are.
Right? The average sports fan is an idiot.
You're not a real sport unless you have idiot fans. It's why I was so proud when we started getting an influx of morons into the Volleyball Source Discord. In a way, it kind of means that we made it.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. So, yeah, I just think that there's a lot of perception amongst some of the fans that it's just like, hey, and also when you're talking about the Polish Federation Instagram, you're talking about the widest net there. You've got a lot of plebs who don't know why a dude's wearing a different colored jersey on the court, who follow that account, right, and just know the big names. So,
I mean, Poland we're talking about, I have slightly higher expectations of, but generally you're absolutely right. So get used to this. This will be a theme this summer. Don't expect all the big names to be playing VNL. You want to move on? Can we go to Italy?
Yeah, let's go to Italia. Let's go to Italia where the playoffs have already started.
We have two semifinalists.
We have some semifinalists. My Italian accent has gone to who knows whatever it was. But yeah, we've got two sweeps. One of them, everyone in the world saw it coming. Perugia taking down Modena. Sorry, Daddy. Sorry to Checo, but Paolo Panini, you guys just can't cut it against the truck that is Perugia. But on the other hand, Rob, we saw the lineup that we wanted, potentially, more or less. We saw Mozic and we saw Keita back for Verona, but at this point, it just felt like the Piacenza train was running, and Verona couldn't do anything to stop it.
I don't give Piacenza that much credit for winning this series. I mean, they played surprisingly stable volleyball by Piacenza standards, and they had good individual performances throughout the series. But this series really, to me, is about Verona. They fired their head coach in the middle of a playoff series. Their captain and second most important player, and Rok Mozic, played one game, and in this game over the weekend, like, he clearly was not 100%. So like that was not bullshit. Like whatever Stoichev was doing with Mozic, like you could tell by looking at him once he finally played that something with his leg was not correct, and he ended up going to the bench. And they made wholesale changes in the fourth after winning the first set and then getting kind of stomped the next two sets, and it just was never going to be enough without those two crucially important players healthy and 100%. And it's such a shame, man. Mm-hmm. It's such a shame. This could have been such an amazing series. It should have been, like we've said, a cementing of the legacy of Nomori Keita and how good of a season that he had. And instead, they bow out, they get swept, and they have to play in this fifth place garbage that Italy does for the next month and a half. And it is really, really disappointing. And mostly it's bad luck. Some of it is organizational mismanagement for sure. Like, I think even if Verona was healthy, recovering from firing their coach in the middle of a playoff series would have been difficult for anybody to do. But a lot of it, I think, is really just bad luck. And for the perspective of the sport, it sucks.
I think it's bad luck, and I think it's mostly institutional mismanagement.
Mostly?
Right? Yeah. Like I think you signed your death note when you hired Stoichev again for this team.
So I agree with that.
And I think that, and like this, I'm just gonna lean into the fact that I've thought he's a stooge for a long time. You're talking about the only coach that I know that some of the best players in the world have it in their contracts that they refuse to play for him.
I knew you were going to say that.
Right? Like it is absolutely wild. It's almost akin to, like, you're hiring a manager for a job, and you know that other jobs have put a restraining order on that manager and they're not allowed back, and you're like, sure, why not?
It'll be fine here.
Why not? We smoke cigars together, we have a good time. So yeah, like it was just doomed from the start. So now it's going to be very interesting to see what Verona does in terms of the off-season market, especially with who they're bringing in next year and what that team is looking to be like. And you know what? Like I'm all for it. It's been very evident to me that in the past few years, this Verona's franchise and organization has put a little bit more money in it. I think that their home experience I think their home experience is one of the best, right? Especially if you watch it on TV. I mean, those fans in Italy who actually know, let us know, but it looks dope. You have the couches around and they're getting essentially bottle service as they're watching. I think Verona investing like they are is actually really awesome. But yeah, like this,
you have to make the right head coaching hire now.
Yeah.
This is
everything was built on a deck of like every team is a house of cards, right? And I think that so many organizations fail to recognize that every little piece is important, but one of the biggest pieces is your coach.
Coaching matters, y'all. It really, really does. And the Italian philosophy of how they just recycle these old coaches is so bad for the game and bad for these franchises. And I hope that Verona learns their lesson. And I think the rumor of who they've already gone out and gotten is out there. But they're going to have an interesting offseason ahead. It's just really a bummer from a fan perspective that this series wasn't better. Verona Piacenza should have been an awesome series, and it wasn't. It was kind of a brutal series. What did Verona win? 2 sets total?
Yeah. I mean, there's just too much going on around this team right now.
So also won 2 sets total. But it's like that one obviously was completely expected. They did about as well as they could with the roster that they had. They gave Perugia a good fight. They never even had close to the horses to contend in the series. And another franchise that we'll have our eye on in the offseason. We'll see what they do and if they can ever get back to the Modena that we grew up with, Everett. But it's been a while since we've seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it so much on the Discord during the pandemic about how much Modena's budget relied on those season ticket sales.
Butts in seats more than any other team in the league.
Yeah, and like when you don't have butts in seats for almost an entire season, it just kills. It kills a lot. So yeah, we'll have to see how Paolo Panini is able to bounce back after this. But I mean, I'm excited. Like once I look at some of these potential, because like I don't know if there's any. I guess Milano Lube, there's a little bit of question, but like after that, like that first game, it's like Milano blew their load in that first game, and they have nothing in the tank since then.
Yeah, that one wasn't a super awesome game. Lube handled Milano. Alex Nikolov was outstanding. 22 points, 17 for 35, 4 blocks and an ace. Just actually, really, really good.
Can we touch back on Piacenza? Because Efe Monterraccia has been unreal.
It's been awesome.
He has been ridiculously good. His numbers in this match were outstanding. Like his passing numbers, unreal. Like let's
13 for 19 attacking, 2 errors only, 73% positive passing, which is insane, and 4 aces. Awesome.
73% positive passing on 26 targets is ridiculous. So honestly, dude, like this Piacenza team is picking up a little bit of heat. I could see them winning a game.
Oh, sure. I mean, they're
winning a game.
They're probably going to play Trentino. They're on that side of the bracket. Trentino rebounded nicely to beat Cisterna in 4 over the weekend. And we were kind of calling for the players not named Alessandro Micheletto to step up. And Daniele Lavia in particular did. He was automatic, 16 for 26 with 1 error, a block and 2 aces. So like that is a very welcome sight for Trentino. But like Trentino Piacenza will almost certainly be a best of 5 semifinal. And that is like legitimately compelling. I think that
I had in my mind that they'd be playing for Perugia, but Piacenza Trentino I think is way more interesting.
I think so too. If Piacenza plays well, if they play as well as they played in this first series.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I might even give. Do you think it's outlandish to say that Piacenza's ceiling is potentially higher than Trentino's?
No, I don't think that's crazy because the names that they have on the roster, the players that they have fielded have the ability. They have the ability and they have the pedigree, but together they have kind of failed to show that outside of catching fire that one Italian Cup a year or 2 ago. But other than that, the stoogery of the franchise has been their downfall. But I don't think it's that crazy at all to say that they could beat Trentino if they play their best volleyball. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think that this one is going to be, if that's actually what we're going to get, which it's looking like it. I think that one is going to be very, very interesting.
So you think Milano's got anything left against Lube or no? Because I mean, Ferry Regers was super good over the weekend. Luati was okay, but nobody else was anywhere to be found. And Nikolov and Botolo were both awesome. So I think Lube just right now has more talent.
Oh yeah, I I'm actually very surprised at how Lue has been able to really step up their game after game one. And it's clear that they're just executing at a higher level. And maybe they weren't really taking it all that seriously in game one, and in game two. In games 2 and 3, they've been going for it. Legumja's been way better. Botolo's been really solid. Nikolov has been outstanding. Bonfante, I mean, he, to me, hands down, is the most improved player in the league. Like, I don't even think that's a question at all. Where if you look for where that team was at the beginning of the season to where they are now in terms of how he's been running that offense.
I will say though, Lube using the depth in this match because Adis Legumja was not good. He hit negative, and Petar Zirlich came in. Remember him from leading the league and scoring for Cisterna a couple of years ago? 8 for 13 off the bench.
And that's another thing too, that like I think that's kind of the first time that I've really been aware that Derlich has been the other guy on the opposite. But that just adds somewhere. That just adds another dimension of depth, because Derlich is a serviceable guy. Derlich is a guy who you can put in a pinch, and you still have Lepke, who could potentially come in on the bench, on the right, on the left. You can play a traditional lineup with like 2 standard outsides and an opposite, or you can play a 3 outside system with either Lepke or Nikolov on the right. Like, there's so many different things that this Lube team can do, and I think that they're really starting to get into it and figure it out. I also think that you've got certain guys on this team like a Balasso, like a Chinese, who have been there before and know how to win at this level. Even Lepke too. Like Lepke is another guy. They went to the finals last year, so they're well aware. So yeah, no, I don't see the way Lube has been playing. I don't see them tripping up against whoever they're playing. Cisterna, no. Milano. Sorry.
I agree with you. I think both of those series will be over this weekend, because I think both of those games are either tomorrow or Thursday. Yeah, both those games are tomorrow.
Okay.
Both game 4s are Wednesday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Super late games. That's like 9:30 local. I don't know why y'all are playing these midnight games over in Italy, but
it's because right now there's a daylight savings difference. We're only 5
hours. I know they haven't hit daylight savings yet, but like, if I'm doing the math right, like these games are starting crazy late. 8:30 p.m. local.
Yeah,
that's late.
That is late, especially for the weekend games. So yeah.
All right, that's it for Italy on the men's side. Let's talk about the women's side really briefly, because the semifinals are underway. Very predictably, Conegliano donged Novara, but the series that we thought what was going to be interesting, Everett, and bye Everett, see you later. Everett will get back here in a minute whenever he figures it out. But we were excited about the Malonza Scandici series. What I didn't realize is this series is only best of 3. I thought that there were going to be. I thought that this was best of 5. Maybe I'm wrong about. Oh, hey Everett, welcome back.
Sorry, I went to go click my tab with my stats from LVF and completely switched. Completely switched tabs. My bad.
I was staging the Malonza Scandici series and how it's only best of 3. For some reason, I thought in my head that the semis were best of 5. I know the final is best of 5, but not the case for the semis. So Malonza is 1 match away from the final, and I was not expecting a donging.
No, me neither. Especially with how Antropova's played this year. And I think that's kind of like where you're seeing the difference between Antropova, who's still trying to be amongst the elite, and Paolo Agono, who is arguably the elite of the elite. It's just a big difference there in terms of like producing in the playoffs is a much different thing than producing during the regular season, and producing under that pressure is a much different situation than producing during the playoffs. So I think
is this best of 5? I can't figure it out based on the LegaVolley Femminile website if this is a best of 5 or best of 3 series.
No, best of 3.
I think there are 3 games that are scheduled for sure. That to me means it might be best of 5. If somebody knows for sure in the chat, please let us know.
Okay, interesting. we'll have to see that on that one. But
yeah, you're right about Scandici though. The one thing that they have not done, and really as far as I can remember, is perform in the playoffs when it really matters. Like in both Champions League and LegaVolley Femminile alike, they've gotten deep on talent alone, but they've, like last year they got to the final and they stole a game from Conegliano and then laid over and died just like everyone else does. And I am curious, like tactically, if Malonza can continue to be so successful at shutting down Ekaterina Antropova, because she put up 17 points, but she went 14 for 38 with 9 errors.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much attention on her, right?
Exactly.
And like when you look at this Milano team starts 4 of the starters from the Italian gold medal team.
Great point.
Right. This is a very, very good team. I've been doing a comparison of the 2025 Conegliano team to the 2021 Conegliano team, because they're it's the only comparison that you can make in terms of undefeated seasons. And the 2021 statistically, the Conegliano team was unreal. Like they blew everyone out of the water in every metric. But when you look at the league in terms of the quality of the league between 2021 and now, it's way different.
Great point.
Way, way, way different. All of the top 6 teams. Well, most of the top 6 teams. Like if you look at Milano, that's a much better team. You look at Scandici, that's a much better team. Back in 2021, Agonu wasn't playing against any of the elite opposites in the league. Now we have Hawk in Italy. There's Hawk, there's Agonu, and there's Antropova. So there's so many things happening right now. But to me, it just comes down to this Scandici team being very one-dimensional, right? You don't pass the ball. You pass the ball all right, but you offensively in this one, look at their efficiency was just absolute horseshit. And it just comes down to the fact that there's not enough scoring power on that left side. Like Britt Herbots needs to be scoring more in 5 on.
So that's the thing. I agree with you. They need to be better, but the scoring firepower is there. That's actually the thing that I disagree with.
Are we overvalued? Like I know Herbots had that one really good season a few years ago, but ever since then she just hasn't been like I keep on expecting her to be this offensive firepower like she was it for Firenze a few years ago? But
Firenze, Novara, she had a really good year.
Yeah, like it just hasn't happened in the past couple. But
I really wanted to bring up though is what Jemmy just put in the chat, and he's right. You're playing an opposite on the left side. Camila Mingardi does not belong there. She does not belong there. And the reason why she's there is because they did a bad job building a roster as far as foreigner constraints, like they do every single year.
Which just brings me back to my original point, right? This team is too one-dimensional. It needs a little bit more scoring, right? Either that P2, like your P1 needs to score like a P1, and your P2 needs to play like a P2, right? But Bossetti is out here winning games and being potential MVP with like 1 kill in a match because she can just pass the damn ball. And that's not what Scandici is able to do. Especially like this is a team that they have so much firepower down the middle with Nwakalour and Anna Carolina, and they're just not able to open that up. But if they're able to open that up, create a bit of a gap, start running that 31 slide, like creating a little bit of separation, maybe there's a chance there for Antropova to step in. But they got to be way better in game 2.
They got to be better at every single other position, including setter. I didn't think Maya Onjenovic played great this game, and the reception unit was not particularly good, and the foreigner limit issues are very real, and I hope that they can figure it out and make this a series, because I was excited to watch it, and that first game did not really deliver. I mean, 19, 22, 21, like that's just control from Malonza across the board.
If I'm Ekaterina Antropova, this next game could be a career-defining game for you on either way, right? If you, as the go-to player of Scandici, after putting up statistically the best season in the history of the LVF, you need to show up. You need to show up, and it doesn't matter what the other team puts in front of you. You need to put up points, because you know who's the absolute fucking queen at doing that and showing up when it matters and putting up points.
Your opponent.
Yeah, the woman on the other side of the net, who's also the woman who's standing in front of you as a starting spot for the national team, right? So if you want to be considered amongst the elite opposites in the world, you need to have a game right now. You don't necessarily need to win, but you need to have an absolute game right now. right? Like if you win and have a game, it's a plus. If you lose and have a game, you stay even. But if you play like you did in game 1 and your team loses and they get knocked out and it's a 1-2 barbecue and you're watching in the stands on the sideline, like that is no bueno for Antropova's legacy.
Yeah, not good. You know what is good?
Barbecue.
Paula Egonu, 23 points in a 3-set match. 23 points. 20 for 33 attacking, 2 blocks and an ace. Completely unstoppable, dominant, GOAT caliber numbers in a big moment, in a meaningful series against great competition with legacies and storylines on the line. It's what she does.
It's why we never doubted her, right?
Never.
It's why it's why when Milano was, fucking around beginning of the season, when she was coming back off of injury, like there was until Paula Egonu gives us a reason to not trust her in clutch playoff games.
I will always trust her.
Always trust her.
Always.
Absolutely.
By the way, Corneliano Novara, don't even watch. Don't watch the series. Don't do it.
I disagree. I think that there could be
your time. Did you see the score lines from this first one?
Yeah, they were bad, but I do think that Novara has the ability to bounce back.
Do they?
Yes, I do.
17, 16, 13?
Yeah.
Novara is a good team. Novara needs to convince themselves, and at this point, it would be lying to yourself and believing it that you have a chance to beat Corneliano, because you don't, and you know that you don't. But the only way that they have a chance to play even their best version of volleyball is to convince themselves that they have a chance. They don't have a chance. They know they don't have a chance, and they're playing like they know they don't have a chance.
But to me, why I'm saying this, Rob, is because you've seen a different Novara team as of late with Taylor Mims on the right side.
Yes, we've talked about it on every episode.
But
They've done a nice job moving things around.
Do that. This is why I'm saying that they have the potential for game 2 to make it interesting, at least, because they went back to their standard lineup that had gotten them into a funk in the middle of the season. Right, you rocked Toluk on the right side the entire time with Walsmeyer and Ishikawa on the left. So bring in Taylor Mims, bring in a little bit of American elbow grease, and see what happens. Right? Remember, I'm pretty sure like this Novara team pushed Conigliano to 5 at the Coppa Italia.
I would
be
surprised, but I don't remember that.
I can't remember. But like I still think that this Novara team has more in the tank, but I need to see Taylor Mims.
No, Corneliano donged them in the Coppa Italia.
Okay.
In the semis. Taylor Mims did play in this game, by the way, and she went 0-4.
She came in off the bench both times.
Everett, I appreciate you standing American players very much, but this is not a series. It will be a 6 dong from here on out.
I think Novara can win one set. That's.
Do you know how sad it is that that's what you have to say about this series?
We are talking about, Rob, the best team of all time.
I know.
This is the best team of all time, right? I'm sorry, but if you were to make a legendary team of all-time best players of all time women's volleyball, Zhu Ting and Gabi Guimarães might be on the starting left side of that team. Right. So you have not arguably, in my opinion, this is the best women's volleyball team ever assembled.
I agree.
So yes, that is the benchmark here. I just want to see them win one set. If for a team that's lost 8 sets all year, yes, if they're able to get, one set in, then I think that's a win. That's all I'm going to say.
Man, that is depressing. All right. Before we move on, one very important thing that we have to talk about, and it's Daddy. Daddy is very important, and we're going to talk about him. And we appreciate you all participating in the Where's Daddy game. Thanks for participating, but earnestly, because when you find where this man, Daddy Stankovic, is hidden somewhere in the show, and you comment the timestamp of where he shows up in the YouTube comments. Yes, Everett?
Also, for the record, The only team to take a point off of Canigliano this year, the only team to take him to 5 is Novara. I seal my case. Let's watch game 2, motherfucker.
Congratulations. So keep an eye out for Daddy Stankovic. We had a very fun one last week. Last week we were celebrating Luke Lublin's Challenge Cup victory. You can see there in the back row a certain guy who doesn't currently play for Luke Lublin joining in the celebrations. And if you zoom in there, you know it's Daddy Stankovic. And we appreciate you all commenting because there were a lot of comments on last week's episode. That's good. That helps our algorithm. Please keep doing that. My favorite one, even though it wasn't necessarily the first one, we'll shout out Fabian found him. G Edmund 84 found Daddy. Matt Lefevre found Daddy. But my favorite one was Reality Check. I found Daddy Stankovic in Lublin team, he says. Okay, this is too funny. I don't know what's the origin of this game, but I have my story too. Recently was watching Modena game, and my wife was like, ooh, who is this handsome guy? Unprompted, somebody admires Daddy Stankovic the way that we do. So shout out Reality Check. Thank you for you.
Like I love the man, but this is Rob. You have this thing where anything that happens, you just automatically say we. This is a classic situation. Anytime we're around somewhere, I'll introduce Rob to someone, and then he'll talk to about on the. We met someone this weekend. It's like no. I introduced you, and this is another scenario where you say we, but Daddy has always been driven by you. You were the one who drove it in the Discord, right? And like I'm not saying this is a bad way. I'm giving you full credit. Is what I'm saying here. But like this is you. But like I have never made a Where's Daddy. So let's put the apple where it means to be, and that's on your desk.
Fine, I won't include you in a great segment and a fun part of our show.
I'm just giving you the credit. That's what I'm doing here.
Keep an eye out for Daddy. He's hidden somewhere in every show. And when you find him, make sure you comment the timestamp of where he showed up in the main YouTube comment section. Don't put it in the live chat. That's cheating. We don't need to cheat. All right. Let's run through some of the other leagues that have playoffs going on. I think Turkey would be a decent place to start. Yeah, real quick on a lot of these things. On the women's side, the regular season is now over. There was only one match left, and it was Vakifbank donging at Zajabaşa last week. I think it was Thursday. I watched the match. It was not good.
No, I agree. Like I turned on my YouTube, it was there, and I was like, sure, why not? Let's watch Vakifbank versus Zajabaşa. This should be good. It was bad. It was bad. But on the other side, man, that Vakifbank team's looking good. Guidetti's got them cooking.
Guess what the first semifinal matchup is going to be?
Woo. Let's go.
That would be Vakifbank versus Zajabaşa again, because only 4 teams make the playoffs in Turkey on both sides. So Fenerbahçe versus Galatasaray is the other one. And like, Zajabaşa's got their problems. They're pretty well documented on this show. One of those problems is they just fired their head coach, which they absolutely should have done. But it's still very difficult. Like, before one more match of the regular season, basically on the doorstep of the playoffs, firing your head coach is not exactly a recipe for long, sustained playoff success. So Zajabaşa looks bad. I expect them to lose to Vakifbank and then win the third place series on raw talent like they always do.
Yeah, probably. I am going to be interested in watching these series. So Jemmy and all of our people, let me know. I honestly can't remember what we were talking about. Was that when you guys? I think. Oh yeah, like I went into Turkey, into the Discord, and they were just talking about dongs, and not dongs, just actual dongs.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was. I honestly like want to applaud our community, because there's so much thirst for men's volleyball players and such little thirst for women's volleyball players. And I think that's the way it should be. We have our women, our way of, paying homage to the beautiful women who are athletes first in our sport. But man, some of y'all are thirsty for the dudes in the Discord, and honestly, I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. It's much funnier and much less problematic for everybody, and I think it's great. A glowing endorsement for the Volleyball Source Discord community. If you are interested in being distracted by a match that's so bad that we just end up talking about dongs, then join at the link in our description.
Yeah, lots of good times in the Discord as a reason.
Elsewhere in Turkey, this was actually earlier today. Congratulations to the Fenerbahçe men on winning the Turkish Cup. Interesting to play the Turkish Cup like semis and finals on a Monday and a Tuesday. I was a little bit skeptical of that, but yeah, Fenerbahçe donged Halkbank today, and Ervin Ingapet was named the MVP. I don't have any stats for this. If somebody has them, either tag us in the Discord, or if there's anything meaningful, just put them in the live chat. But I don't have stats for this. I just wanted to congratulate Fenerbahçe because there's a pretty solid chance that the Fenerbahçe women also win the Turkish Cup, and it would be pretty cool for that franchise to sweep that competition. So we'll see.
The chat saying that Engapeth was in his god mode today.
Sounds like the man still has the ability to flip the switch.
Yeah. Of course he does.
I really like this graphic the Fenerbahçe put out too, because they put Ervin right on top with the volleyball, like pointing, like put him on the pedestal as the MVP. Nice. Wait a minute. Kolakovic didn't start Shotala in all 3 sets? What are we talking about?
Who did they have on the right then?
What? Ervin had 8 aces? Damn, thank you, chat. This is the information that we need from y'all.
Because we can't find stats.
Yeah, I like that the Turkish leagues are on Volley Station now, which is awesome. But like when that doesn't include the cup competition, so I couldn't find anything. And I looked. Foreigner issues. Mirza Lagumsha played opposite. God, what are we doing? Figure it out. Congratulations to Fenerbahçe. Men's Everett Ligi playoffs start in like a week or two. They have this weird little break this week. I guess, Everett, we should probably address that Perugia beat Monza in Champions League.
All right, we've addressed it. Let's move on. That's all that needs to be said.
Thanks for participating, Monza. Y'all go enjoy your off seasons. Perugia will play Halkbank in the semis, and that will be awesome. Also, Novara won the first leg of the Women's CV Cup today, obviously. Great. Moving right along. The Bundesliga playoffs have started. I haven't watched any Bundesliga playoffs yet, but it looks like there were like a couple decent games in the first leg of the quarterfinals. 5 setters between like Friedrichshafen and Düren went 5, and then Gießen and Hersching went 5. But unless something crazy happens, this is a collision course for a best of 5 Lüneburg versus Berlin series, or the 1 and the 2 seeds that they would play in the finals at the earliest, and that would be unbelievable. I hope that we get to see more of that. That would be up to maybe 8 matches, 8 like playoff caliber matches between them this year, and I'm here for it. So
we will have to see. Like the Bundesliga has just lost so much over the years, I feel, unfortunately. It's just not, it just doesn't have the same level of intrigue, unfortunately.
The same team wins every year, so that hurts. And that's okay because Berlin has more money, but like there used to be more, I think there used to be a lot more North Americans than there are now. Maybe that's part of it.
Maybe, but honestly, I just think that like Friedrichshafen was the only team that had an organization and the budget to be able to compete with them, and they're just not. They're a shadow of them, their former selves. We've seen so many of the bigger clubs drop out of the Bundesliga. Whereas like we talk about relegation in other leagues, the Bundesliga, like teams like Frankfurt or
the Bundesliga has expanded,
or Bull, but they've expanded to like smaller teams.
To worse teams. Like they've promoted a bunch of bad teams from the second division.
So yeah, there's a little bit of I can expect the Bundesliga to make it back, but it's just not the same right now, unfortunately.
But if Berlin and Lüneburg play a series, I will watch it. I will always watch those two play.
I will watch that shit talking all day.
All day
100%.
Everett, can I go on a rant? This is like an annual rant at this point. It's about the LNV playoffs.
Oh yeah. I mean,
oh my god. This is the worst.
Let's keep it short. I
will. This is the worst format of any playoff in any sport that I have ever seen. This makes no sense. I'm talking about the Marmara Spike League formerly known as the LNV, the French men's top division. Listen to this. The quarterfinals, the 8 teams that make the quarterfinals, they play 4 series that are best of 5 matches. You're right. All right. A lot of volleyball in the quarterfinals. Great. They're really trying to play a lot of ball and determine a worthy champion. Okay. You get past best of 5, you get to the semifinals, 4 teams left, only best of 3 at that point. You wonder, like, that's weird. Why are you playing less games in the more important series? That doesn't really make sense. Okay, whatever. They're going to play at most 3 semifinal games. I'm sure they'll do the same thing in the finals.
You have 25
Wrong.
seconds left.
The finals is a 2-match Champions League style series. And even the golden set thing doesn't make sense. You're going from best of 5 matches in the quarters to 2 matches in the final? With a league with a lot of parity? Figure it out, LNV. Figure it out.
At that point, if you're going to do it, just make it a Super Bowl. Make it a one game scenario, neutral site.
I would love that, but 2 games and like the golden set situation doesn't make sense.
Yeah, what is the golden set situation again?
I don't actually even know. I think it's just based on matches won, not at all based on set score, maybe.
Yeah,
I truly have no idea. And
I think it is like the golden set happens no matter if you win. Like if one team wins 3-0 and the other one wins 3-2, there's still
that's what I mean.
Isn't that what it is? Also, I think the fact that as an LNV team, you can bring in you can declare someone injured and bring in a random foreigner during the playoffs.
I'm glad you brought this up. They do this. Crazy. They do this every year. There is such like. I mean, it's straight up illegal in anywhere else that you go, any other sport that you talk about, that these teams can make these bullshit roster transfers for the playoffs only. They bring in all these ringers. Like Monza, for example, the Monza men, their season is done. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 of their players get picked up to play in the French League playoffs, which is so stupid.
Guys like Eric Rohrs would be
Luca Martilla, his brother is already playing in the league. Like it's insane. And there's a good example of this already. Like Poitiers, they signed the leading scorer in the league, Nick Mujanovic, the Slovenian guy, because he played for Paris. He played in the LNV. He was the top scorer in the league and bails in the middle of the season because his team didn't make the playoffs.
Hey, it's the closest thing that we have to a trade deadline, right?
But the trade deadline is like after the trade. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I honestly don't get it. I don't understand it. The fact, like bringing in players from outside is one thing. Bringing in dudes from outside, like inside of your league, is another level of diabolical.
For the playoffs.
Yeah. And like for me, like Poitiers, it would make sense that they should be allowed maybe to go get out someone because they had Ingapeth begin the season and he signed off. So yeah, it's it's a little bit different, but yeah, like figure it out, LNV.
Figure it out. Like this is a good league and my favorite part about the LNV is the parity between 1 and 8. I mean, Saint Nazaire won the league last year as a 7 seed. I can't ever remember another league where that has happened. So why do you Mickey Mouse your own playoffs that should be like the most compelling playoffs in volleyball? The format is bad and this roster situation is insane.
I do know one other team that has won a championship, not from 7th though, but Rob, from 8th. And this is where I get to go off because holy fuck. The most sincerest and deepest and just like holy wow, congratulations to the Brandon Bobcats, the 8th seed at this weekend's uSports National Championship, which they hosted. First and foremost,
correct me. Isn't that the only reason they were in the field was because they hosted?
Let me get in there. This is a time for Yesha. Okay, you don't close that yap over there. Yes, exactly. That was the only reason that they were in the field. Despite, if you were in the Discord during Brandon games, you would have thought that Brandon was the best team on planet Earth and they just got fucked over by the seeding and that they shouldn't be there. Guys, they got 3-donged by UBC, 3-donged twice by UBC in the quarterfinals. Like in the quarterfinals, UBC didn't even make it to nationals. They got 4th, right? Everyone talks about, how this team, they took matches off Alberta. They took matches off of all the teams that they beat. You also got swept by MRU. MRU won 5 games this year, and 2 of them were against your Brandon squad. But all that saying, the Brandon Bobcats this weekend, outstanding. First and foremost, you take down the number 1 seed, Winnipeg Westman. It was just a pure fucking balls to the walls performance from your team. Just absolutely unreal. And then in game 2, you pull off the reverse sweep on the Saskatchewan Huskies, another battle of the prairies. And man, Saskatchewan, big shout out to our boy, Sean McKay. He actually messaged me during the show because he was listening to last week's episode, Rob. He said, not quite the daddy magic we needed. If only I listened to last week's episode before the tourney. Sean, you're a guy. We're sorry, but they did it.
That's a bummer.
They did end up going on to win the bronze, so that's a good thing on their side. But this Brandon team, I have a shit ton of respect in general for this Brandon program. I think what Grant Wilson has built over there has to be the smallest community to win a uSports national championship in men's volleyball, hands down. Which is what they've done is built as special, and you can see that with the crowd. You come up against an you come back in the reverse sweep in the semifinals against Saskatchewan. You put yourself into a national final situation, which no one believed that you could be in, and you absolutely manhandle the defending national champions with arguably one of the best players in the league on that team. It was so fucking special. I am so sad and so mad that I didn't go out. Well, I wasn't there to experience it. Just the most heartfelt congratulations to Grant Wilson. He has built that program. I mean, there's a lot of people who have built that program, but he's done such a good job at instilling the heart of the community into the Brandon Bobcats. And you saw that front and center. That place was packed. It was loud. You storm the court when you win like that. And then also I want to give an absolute massive shout out to the MVP, an OG member of the Discord. You guys may not remember this, Rob. You'll probably remember this, but back in the early days of the Discord in its first year, we got access to volley metrics because Philip Lauder, this year's MVP, gave us his email and his password. So the fact that an OG guy Discord, I'm honestly really upset that I wasn't there because I would have loved to have interviewed. That would have been a special moment for the Discord, I think, for me to interview Philip Lauder after that one. But man, that was really something special. I haven't sat and watched a national championship like that in a long time, but luckily this weekend worked out perfectly for me able to do it. I was just crushing beers by myself at home, which is why I was a little lippy in the Discord throughout.
A little.
Yeah, that was really special to watch. Congratulations, Brandon. You guys fucking deserved it. Every single part of it. And that was fucking awesome.
Yeah. That court storming, if you guys haven't seen that video of Heslinga hitting that last ball out of bounds and basically the entire city of Brandon emptying onto that court to celebrate with that team, that is what sports are all about. I had chills running down my spine watching that clip, hearing what was able to be salvaged of the CBC call in English. I saw the CBC call in French. I saw our guy G Volley posted because he was there. Absolute scenes. Incredible. If you haven't seen it, you have to go see it. And humongous congrats to Philippe Lauder, who is in the live chat right now.
Philip, not Philippe. He's German, not French.
My apologies, Philip. He's been in the Discord forever. He is the man. Congratulations. This has never happened before, right? As an 8 seed winning?
No. No, not at all. Just I think one of the biggest differences is in terms of every year there's always a good mix of teams going in. The only team that I can think about being somewhat similar is going to be going back to 2007 and the Winnipeg team that won in 2007. But that Winnipeg team was really strong. You've got guys like Dustin Schneider, who set for the national team. Justin Duff was on that team. They had a bunch of other studs out there, and they were still a very, very good team from the Canada West. And don't get me wrong, like Brandon was, but in terms of past Brandon rosters, this is definitely not the strongest that they've ever been. It's also not the first time they've been in a national final. But you can tell what meant for them. And I told you guys last week, or maybe it was the week before, that Brandon is probably the only community and the only team in the country that has front page newspaper, presence throughout the year. And that community was behind it, and it was really fucking special. And hopefully
they were playing 7-on-6, man. They really were. They were absolutely playing 7-on-6 that entire tournament. That crowd was special.
Yeah, they absolutely were. And you know what? I absolutely love to see it. For the first time since 2018, it's a team other than Trinity or Alberta that wins the championship. So yeah, you absolutely love to see it. You love to see it for Brandon. You just love to see it all around.
Philip, without giving too much away in the chat, how was the party in Brandon that night?
Shit, is he out there?
Yeah,
yeah, let's go. Yeah, that's honestly like some of my favorite times have been post nationals parties. Like, can you give us a little bit of a breakdown?
Yeah, actually, maybe don't do it here. Do it in the Discord or something. But I earnestly hope that party that night on Sunday night in Brandon was an all-timer.
And honestly,
he says yes, laughing emoji.
If you know anything, like Brandon, Manitoba is, and I can say this because I'm from Manitoba, but Brandon, Manitoba, in a lot of ways, is just like it's just like another Canadian town. All they really have is the Brandon Wheat Kings, which is their WHL junior hockey team, and the Brandon Bobcats. So yeah, just super like that. That is definitely a crowd and a fan base that knows how to party in a very uniquely Canadian way too.
You could tell from the court storming. I mean, half the crowd was like dressed in construction gear with like overalls and yellow construction hats. Like,
just
scenes.
Just going to work.
Unbelievably cool.
Also, I will give a massive shout out to the fact that Brandon just played us balls to the wall style of volleyball the entire time. Like, dude, there was very little tipping. There was very little off speed. There was no wipes off the block. Like, Louder, you were on another level. I have JJ Love is like my type of setter. The way he runs that offense, the way he's an emotional stabilizer. Like, to me, that's why I fully think that Philip, you should be the MVP 100%, but JJ is he's the spoon that stirs the pot for that Brandon team, and he has the ability to just run on pure emotions and lead them. But Friesen was outstanding, and it was a blast to watch them. Especially when it comes to nationals, everyone when I was a lot younger and my friends were playing for Ontario teams, I would get really I would pull for Ontario teams. People were being like, "Oh, Everett's crying the OUA teams." I don't give two shits. I think there's only, to be honest, there's only one program that I think is worthwhile to be at nationals right now, and that's Queens, right? Actually, no, I take that back. I do give a lot of credit to Windsor. I just think it's a really tough school to recruit to, right? In the same way that I think Toronto runs a really good program, but it's a really tough school to recruit to for completely different reasons. But yeah, there's no one really, in my eyes, in the OUA that is running like a complete program or has all of the things really lined up for them to fully compete at that next level. So
I don't know why any of you would waste your time giving Everett shit for a league that's literally never won a national championship ever in the history of uSports. So
yeah, and no, that's not entirely true. They did win one years and years ago. And actually, it was Ottawa U that won it, and Ottawa U isn't even in the league anymore. That just shows it. But yeah,
Philippe's stats from the championship game: 10 for 17 attacking, 0 errors. It's 588 efficiency, an ace, and it looks like 9 block assists. So that's 4.5 points for 15.5 points total. Obviously, I don't like the way they do these stats, but Philip, our guy, it looked like you picked a real good time to have one of the matches of your career. That stat line is outstanding.
Yeah. So, I mean, former rookie of the year, signing things off as he could. And You know what? Yeah, Philip. Let's see if we can do maybe a bit of an interview sometime.
That would be very fun.
Get that going.
Yeah.
Talk to Grant too.
Well done, Brandon. What scenes? Seriously, go watch the clip if you haven't already.
Jesus Christ, Brandon outblocked Alberta 19.5-3. That's fucking disgusting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
4 sets, right? That is ridiculous. I mean, the stats are the way those are done in the NCAA as well. It's difficult to know how many like points that's actually worth, but the disparity is clear. That sounds like an ass kicking, and it sounds like you said, a fun brand of volleyball to watch.
It was. It really was. And I mean, on the other side of the net, Alberta just looked shell shocked.
They're playing 6-on-7.
Martin's just didn't look good. And I like Brandon's game plan was to break Martin's on the left side and then clamp on Heslinga. And that's exactly what they did. And you know what? There was someone in the chat, there's someone in the Discord, I don't know who, but they were saying after the first game, like, oh, do we think Alberta's going to be able to do it? You know, just chucking the ball to Heslinga and giving no balls to the right side. And I was like, I think that's kind of a dumb take. Like, look at how they took down Sherbrooke in the semifinals. Like, that's crazy. But then ultimately, whoever said that was right, because that's exactly what happened in the final. Like, Espedito? Is that why am I forgetting his name?
There was I saw on the stat sheet a guy named Sargent.
Liam Espedito is the right side. Like,
okay.
Sargent came in off the bench like later. He was their P2 last year
and looked like he was quite bad. I think I saw 0 for 5 with 3 errors.
Yeah, he came off the bench. I think it was the third or the fourth, and he wasn't good. But yeah, they just didn't give that much volume to Espedito, and they weren't as lethal down the middle as they've been in years past, and they just weren't able to spread it out enough for Heslinga to fully do anything. And like he was hitting against 6 hands a lot on Sunday.
Cool to watch. Nice display of Canadian volleyball, and it looked like G posted on Instagram about like the numbers and the growth and the viewership, and it sounded like it was a successful season overall for uSports men and women. So good job.
Yeah, it was electric.
Cool. I think that's a show. Quick one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Relatively quick one. We appreciate you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks. I think my hotel Wi-Fi here in Minnesota held up pretty well to get this out live. So that's good news. We will see you next week. Make sure you join the Volleyball Source Discord again. Links in the description. Lots of interesting stuff going on in there all the time. And so somebody asked in the chat earlier, like, how do I find out when games are going on? In the Discord, there's a channel with a bot that posts every day the matches that are going on that day, which it scrapes it from Flash Score. So,
Michael Wooten, what's up?
Michael, my man.
Oh,
Michael is the man.
Legend.
Michael's our producer from our North Sacred broadcast 2 years ago. He and I are about to work on some stuff together the next month or two. So, shout out to Michael, the Team Woot YouTube channel. Yeah, that's our show. Michael, you caught us just in time. We'll see y'all next week. Everett, anything else?
Nah. Fuck y'all. Peace.
Peace.